everybody. This is my longtime friend Leigh Steinberg, who is back, and I'm really proud to announce that Leigh has three clients for this year's 2019 NFL Draft. So, watching this, welcome, and without any further ado, and out of respect for Leigh's time, Leigh, let's get right. One thing is one adjustment I'm going to make in 1 second here, and let me do that. Just so I can take the double count now, and that is this and there. Okay, now, and we are back to Leigh here at Skype. And if you have any questions, type them in, and I'll see them. And we are off. Leigh, you have three clients. First of all, talk about your clients, and we'll talk about Mr. Mahomes and all the other greatness going on in Steinberg sports.
Well, frankly, most of our draft classes are larger than three players, but no one expected that Patrick Mahomes would become the hottest athlete in America in one season. So we decided to take a smaller group. We have a running back from Memphis named Darrell Henderson, who rushed for 8.1 yards per carry last year. Just sensational, 1,800 yards. And he's getting a tremendous amount of interest. I could see him being a end of the first round, and if not that, top of the second round draft pick. He's strong, he's fast, he has good hands, he's able to be a contributor, blocking in the passing game, catching in the passing game, as well as running from scrimmage. He's an every down back from the University of Memphis, and I think he'll do quite well. Then we have David Sills, who's a wide receiver. Now, you might remember David years ago was the player who made a commitment to Lane Kiffin at SC, and then he was playing quarterback. So he started to try quarterback, and then 2 years ago switched his position. He's 6'4" plus. He's a really strong red zone threat. He can catch everything. And because he was a quarterback, he has really incredible insights into offensive football. So you're getting someone who can out-leap a defensive back, who runs precise routes, who's got killer hands, and you keep an eye on him because I'm not sure if he goes in the second round, third round, but I will tell you, whoever gets him, he may end up being the most productive player at that position when he actually gets to the NFL. And then we have Marvell Tell, who's a really sleek safety, tremendously talented, long and lean, tall, another very bright player. And and I think he'll be taken in the first three rounds.
You know, I was talking to Mr. Sills at your party in Atlanta, and the other thing that impressed me was our conversation was about reading defenses. So as a wide receiver, he understands, because he did this in Dana Holgorsen's offense, how to read a defense and adjust the pattern, you know, in accordance with what the coach has designed the play to do. You know, I was impressed with that.
And he's bright and he's handsome. When we put him on Radio Row, everybody came back and said he has a future in broadcast. So it was, we're delighted to have him. And he was the receiver that Will Greer threw to at West Virginia, and they had a very prolific offense.
Hey, so talk to me about Patrick Mahomes. He's had an amazing year. What's the latest?
So his first priority, second, third, fourth, fifth, is to do those things mentally and physically in the offseason that he needs to do to try to take the team to the next level, because they just missed out on the Super Bowl, and he has so much determination. His work ethic is stellar. So he looks at it like this is what he's doing. There are 24 hours in a day. He can spend 16 on football. He also announced a great charity, a charitable foundation called 15 and the Mahomes. And the thrust of this is, we now call it underserviced youth. and kids that are in hospitals that have sickness. So it's got a entire range of activities he'll be doing in it. It's centered in Kansas City, but it will also operate in Texas, and then as time goes on, get bigger. And then, of course, you're starting to see endorsements that he did. As you know, we kept a tight lid on that the first 2 years because really you didn't want him to be in a situation where he's on every billboard and he's having first year adjustment situations. Well, it turns out he didn't have many adjustments that held him back. So, you will see him for Adidas and Avocare and Oakley sunglasses and a number of different products. Really key to not overexpose him so that people get time and to make sure they're balanced. So what you have, Zennie, is product categories. Automotive would be one, breakfast cereal would be one. And then his breakfast cereal, Mahomes Magic Crunch, should be out around training camp. So
wow, Mahomes Magic Crunch. I want some.
It's
I love it.
It's Frosted Flakes, but with a low enough level of sugar that it won't turn kids into complete maniacs.
When is that coming out? That's huge. Mahomes Magic.
Around training camp.
Wow, that's something else. Are you having fun with this? I mean, you have to be.
It is fun. It's lots of fun. My partner, Chris Cabin, and I could not have anticipated that he would come on so fast.
Yeah.
Because really it's about reading the field, reading defenses. And it's really hard for a college quarterback to adjust immediately. The game's much faster. The defenses are confusing. So decision-making takes some time. So the scary thing to contemplate is that with a year under his belt, as the field slows down, Patrick will be even better.
Hey, how can you give us some insight on his former college coach, about now the Arizona Cardinals head coach, Cliff Kingsbury? I mean, what do you think Cliff Kingsbury will do this year? How do you think he'll do? And how do you think do you think his air raid offense will change the NFL, or what's your thoughts?
Cliff is great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they end up taking Kyler Murray,
mm-hmm.
or whether they stay with Josh
mm-hmm.
Rosen. But either way, he's a quarterback whisperer, and he'll be outstanding. He really helped Patrick. If you look at it, they had three quarterbacks there at the same time at Texas Tech. It was Patrick Mahomes, it was Davis Webb,
yep.
and it was Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
And they're all there at the same time. And so I think he'll be really dynamic. He's got charisma. He can relate to players. He's not that old. And I think if you look at that new mode of the Sean McVays of the world, I think he's in that imaginative, creative in terms of offense. And I think Arizona's got a winner.
Now, let's talk about, you've got other clients that have went to the now folded Alliance of American Football, but came out on top in that league. Talk about the most valuable player from that league that's your client.
Well, first of all, it's really sad that the AAF died because pro football doesn't have a minor leagues. You can play in Canada, but it's slightly different football. You can play arena, and it's all offense, and it's like the NFL with all the boring parts taken out. And so it's really sad because let's say a player is on the last third of the roster. He may not get much playing time at all. He'll just play special teams. So you never really see what some of these players can do if they were given a chance to actually playing games. There's a tiny percentage of players who start, and then the rest of them sit on the bench, and also the practice squad. So it's really sad. For Garrett Gilbert, the quarterback from SMU, he just never got a chance to play. He'd be great in off season. He'd be very good in training camp. And then he had a whole succession of situations where the first quarterback got hurt and they wanted a veteran quarterback. So
it's a matter of him getting a chance.
Half of the starting quarterbacks, half of the teams only keep 2 quarterbacks. So that's a big shift from the days where some teams kept 4 and everybody kept 3. So Garrett finally got a chance to play for the Orlando Apollos, and he tore up the league, and he ended up being MVP of the league. And that led to him being reunited with his childhood friend Baker Mayfield up in Cleveland. Oddly enough, they grew up in the same neighborhood. Baker was best friends with Garrett's younger brother and spent a lot of time at the Gilberts. So that'll be interesting. And then we had a second quarterback, Logan Woodside, who's from Toledo, who got signed with the Tennessee Titans. So for players like that, the experience was invaluable, and they actually got a chance they wouldn't have had. So it's sort of sad. I know we have the XFL coming, but we need a developmental place that players can actually play.
Do you give the Freedom Football League a chance? A number of people we know are involved in, including Michael Darter, who just called me today. What are your thoughts about it? Then J.J. Lasley is involved with the Oakland Panthers, and they're raising money as we speak. What do you think about that?
I think this country is in a insatiable love affair with football. Not only is pro football the most popular sport, it's the most popular television show, because every week in Nielsen nighttime ratings, 3 of the top 5 of the top 10 shows are NFL nighttime football. We've never had a love affair like this with one sport. Baseball was close when I was growing up. And because of that, there's such a long off season. Teams stop playing, most of them at the end of December, early January, and then January, February, March, April, May, June, and now July, no football, no NFL football. So there really is a huge appetite. So for a new league to make it, they basically need 3 things. Number 1, they need an available supply of players. And I'm here to tell you there are some talented players who are not on a practice squad, who are not in the NFL.
Right.
Number 2, you need a television contract. So the revenue stream, and people will watch. The AAF was building its ratings. It had some cities where it was drawing well, but it was way ahead where like the AFL was at that point. And third of all, you need cities that can support franchises. And there are 32 NFL cities, but there are ones that are very close in terms of size and all the rest that could support a team. So I do believe that there's a niche for new leagues, and I hope all of them make it because it's great for players.
I had Steve Humphries on, who, as you remember, may remember, has started the A11 Offense League and had Scott McKibben as his commissioner, and he said that the one thing he found that was frustrating, people don't quite understand, and I'd love your response on this, is the capital investment involved in maintaining a league and finding committed investors, because he said everyone wants to take a sniff, but then they don't want to pay the money when the bill comes due. What are your thoughts about that?
So I'd say 2 things. First of all, football is expensive to play. They have more players than any other sport. They need more equipment than any other sport. They have a long training camp. So it's expensive, but the history of leagues is such that, think of it, Jerry Jones, he put $140 million in 1989 to buy the Dallas Cowboys. So here we are in 2019, and that team's worth like $5 billion. Bob Kraft put 175 million. All these franchises tend to explode value if you have the patience. So they're actually not bad investments. I have no idea how the AAF could have gone into the year without understanding exactly what we're going to spend or close to it, and having raised the money for it. The fact that the plug was pulled is very, very bizarre. So, look, our business rests on the irrationality of middle-aged men. we love sports. We're crazy for sports. But when I say that, if a corporate CEO used the same judgment in his primary business that he uses to pay $5,000 for a signature scribbled on a piece of cardboard, he'd be broke. So you've seen in all professional sports, television revenue goes up, stadium revenue goes up, memorabilia does, internet. So if you can find the right league and be willing to go through the opening problems and challenges that any league has, then you might see a massive return.
Hey, so talk to me about Paxton Lynch, because I know he started off as a first-round pick of the Broncos, and but now am I mistaken? He's with the Seahawks?
Yes.
Congratulations.
So Paxton does a couple things extraordinarily well, aside from just being a potential franchise quarterback. The one thing he does is he throws with feather and touch. The second thing is, for someone of his size, he's very nimble, and he'll scramble outside the pocket and throw on the run. And then he goes to Denver, and he would have been greatly helped had they had a veteran starting quarterback. In the same way that Aaron Rodgers, Carson Palmer, Phillip Rivers, Patrick Mahomes, and a whole set of players benefited from being on the bench. He would have benefited. Well, as it was, they really had no incumbent quarterback, and he needed to spend some time learning, and he also needed to be in a system that was more suited to him. So that's a real opportunity for him to resurrect his career in Seattle. He gets to learn from Russell Wilson, who's a very heady quarterback, and what happens is this: the first path to adding a franchise quarterback is picking someone at the top of the round or later. The second path is you have a backup quarterback who shows such promise that someone trades for him. So it's not like Russell Wilson is going anywhere for a while. But if Paxton can show well enough, then he's got an opportunity to start somewhere.
I got to ask you, if you can't answer this question, it has to do with NFL ownership in the Broncos. It shouldn't be considered a controversial one, but I'll go for it. If you don't want to touch it, that's fine. But what are your thoughts about the Bolin Trust and Beth Bolin possibly taking over the team and the roadblocks that seem to be in front of her and the family?
Well, you have family politics everywhere, and they've been such a great organization for so long. Part of it was the stability and long-term interests of Pat Bolin. Part of it was the Elway in the front office. But look, the NFL is a sport which has adopted all these parity rules. They don't want a dominant franchise. So you have a salary cap that makes a really good franchise give up players. You have a reverse order in the draft. You have a cap, again, that allows teams with less talent to do really well in free agency. But you know what? It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, stable ownership with a long-term vision, a clever front office that knows how to evaluate players, draft them, trade for them, a coaching staff that knows how to develop them is even better. So you would expect that there are bowling younger people that learn from their father. So I think that'll all sort itself out.
And I'll also ask you, even if you don't want to touch it, the Raiders situation regarding the announcement that they dismissed their scouts. And my feeling was that as a person who has NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, in his computer file right now, you don't use NDAs. But is it much ado about nothing? And if that's the case, how did it get out anyway?
Well, so know this: when John Gruden came in to coach that team, he amassed a lot of power, and he never would have taken that job if he didn't have that power. And he's done a series of things to try to reshape the team in his own image. And I mean, for example, the trade last year for arguably the best defensive player in football, right? And again, they give up a really talented wide receiver. But whatever it is he's doing, he has a plan. And this was the first time he saw those scouts. So who knows what's right or wrong in it. But I would just tell you that they will live and die with John Gruden. And then they've added Mike Mayock, who was a draft prognosticator on television. And they've got a strong vision. So evidently, whatever the scouts were doing didn't jive with that. And so it's sad for the scouts, but that's John Gruden's team. I've told you this before, but we gave Mark Davis our humanitarian award.
Yes, I was there.
Right.
I was
for
there.
what he'd done for high school sports in the Bay Area. And, he's been my friend for 35, 40 years. And I think they'll be okay. As you know, I was not a proponent or excited about them leaving Oakland because I think they are abandoning fans that really have been amazingly loyal over time. And I don't like it also for what it does for the city of Oakland and the East Bay in terms of losing franchise. Pretty soon the A's will be the only one there. If this had been younger in my career, I would have done what I did with the Giants and the Oakland A's, which is just fly up there, see if the mayor needed help.
Wait, you think the A's are going to wind up leaving Oakland?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, they're going to Las Vegas.
Really?
But
the A's, the Oakland A's.
Oh, A's.
Right, because they're in Sacramento right now, and Dave Cavall's there right now, stomping for legislation for his exciting new, I call it, curved pillbox of a baseball stadium, which I hope gets built in Oakland. I believe it will. That's why I asked. I really love what Dave is doing. I think he's a Mitch.
Well, here's what happened. When I was helping with Save the A's, we had a big business community. Lobo Harris was mayor.
Yep,
we went out boss. And found new owners who were Ken Hoffman and
Steve Schott.
Yeah. And made them a series of promises about what the Coliseum would be like, and that it would be a baseball stadium because the Raiders were in Oakland. But then the Raiders come back, and they turn that stadium into substandard for both baseball and football.
That's right.
So it's not uniquely suited to either one.
Right.
And I always felt bad for those owners because later after I'd done that, Oakland makes the decision that they want them back, which I understand. But anyway, that's sort of the problem with that stadium thing is that it's cold, okay? And it's in a very sort of dark, isolated part of Oakland. So what I kept suggesting to them was they build a sports town, which would be interactive rides, a Disneyland of sports where you'd have virtual reality rides, you have a West Coast Hall of Fame, you'd have a whole series of things to do, and then you'd put retail in there and a series of stores, so you get traffic coming during the week. And but it's a cool place to go on a weeknight for a baseball game.
Well, now,
And
yeah, they're trying to build a Howard terminal on the water now, and what they've got, they hired big architects out of the Netherlands and New York, and what they've done when it gets built, and it will get built, will transform Oakland in a way. I think we can talk all day about Oakland, but that's another story. But it'll transform that part of Oakland in a way that it'll make it a tourist area. It'll be
you've
it's a
got
wild,
yes,
ooh, you know.
you got the fifth largest market in the country, and you're drawing from Alameda, which is a huge county. You're drawing from Contra Costa County, which is another huge, and there are still some fans way down into Santa Clara County. But you need things to do, and you need places to shop, attractions to
Right,
see,
absolutely.
and there's no reason that Oakland can't be a vital, exciting place. It's got the best view in the Bay Area is from Oakland back to the city, and so I'm all for it.
Hey, before I shift gears and talk about concussions, my viewer Barry Lee has a question. He asks, "How do you think the Raiders will do in Las Vegas from a business standpoint?"
If you look at the success of the hockey team,
The Golden Knights.
it really was unprecedented. I mean, they sold out, they were good, they did clever marketing, and what people forget about Las Vegas is that there are actually people who live there. I mean, I think there are a couple million people that can get there within a couple of hours, and they've got the support of the entertainment industry there and the hotels and all the rest of it. They're going to do great. First of all, they're the
I
Raiders.
agree.
So
Yeah.
remember, people are not going to stop coming from the Bay Area, and I guarantee you there'll be people from the Bay Area and Los Angeles who buy season tickets. But second of all, they've remember, football is much easier than hockey is. It's only 10 concert dates, and you can sell out a stadium for that pretty easily. So I think they're going to do well, and I think they're going to have lots of endorsements and sponsorships, and I think naming rights will be big. They have been starved in that city, which is sports
Yes, they
crazy,
have. Yeah.
for teams forever and ever. Well, now gambling's out the window, so that was the big bugaboo. But now you've got every sport racing as fast as they can to figure out how to capitalize on the gambling business.
And I got to ask you about that from your perspective as an agent, because I was, long story short, I wound up in a Raiders sponsor party in Las Vegas for CES. Talked to Jerry Jones. He agreed with me that the Cowboys would be worth $10 billion with gambling. So I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking, gee, I wonder if sports agents like Leigh are saying to their clients, we got to figure out a way to park you into this. What's the situation with sports and gambling, or is that overblown? Because I know Mark specifically did not disclose to Oakland his moves to Vegas. They're all gambling related. But now Oakland, I'm on them, I'm saying, hey, look, you need a business plan for the Coliseum to take advantage of gambling. You don't have one. Let's get going, folks. But from your standpoint, where are we with gambling and sports in the future for athletes?
We're in an evolutionary change because we had that Supreme Court decision in New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
So it's like the Oklahoma land rush. Everyone is looking to find the best way to capitalize on this. I think you'll see in-stadium gambling. I think you'll see the whole future in sports is gaming. It's combination with esports. It's being able to tie all those things together and having the right platforms on social media that that drive revenue. It's a little confusing still, because remember, for years, the most threatening thing to professional sports was the possibility that a manager or a player could be compromised with gambling problems and then go ahead and shave their performance. Now, we know that bad behavior by athletes doesn't seem to hurt professional sports. I wish there was none of it, but the point is that we've had all sorts of behavioral incidents and people still come and watch. The only thing that could hurt it would be the perception that the games are not played on a level playing field, that somehow they're not following the same rules, the players are giving marginal performance, that it's fixed, and then it becomes wrestling. So we're in an evolutionary stage where it's not totally clear what relationship a player can have with gambling. It's not totally clear how far teams will go. So again, I would describe it as a gold rush, land rush situation where various entities are killing themselves to find the platform that'll be a revenue producer. And I think what will happen is more people will bet than have bet before, because it's not like most of us are going to find a bookie or call a bookie. And other than Las Vegas, or anywhere that there's a casino, there's been no place to bet. But I'm telling you, there's something in people that loves the challenge of betting, and honestly, I think it'll be a Gamblers Anonymous problem too.
Hey, so on that note, however, do you see this impacting the collective bargaining agreement negotiations that have started?
If they're smart, the Players Association in every sport would see it as a massive revenue source that they deserve to have their cut of.
So we'll see what happens with that. Barry Lee has a question before I shift over to the concussion. He wants to know what you think of the XFL as well, having said what you said about developmental leagues and the need for them.
So I do think that Vince McMahon, who's running it, I've met with Oliver Luck, who's like the commissioner of the league, and Vince McMahon. They've got a very solid program together. Oliver Luck was athletic, played backup quarterback behind Warren Moon for Houston, and gave birth to a pretty fair quarterback in Andrew Luck, or father. And I think they'll be successful again for the same reason, which is there's an insatiable thirst for more football. There's a long off season where it's not played. There are players who never get a chance to play. And ESPN proved to us that most men would rather watch mediocre sports than great something else.
And now, concussions. Are you satisfied with the progress the league has made with respect to the concussion issue?
No. We've had this discussion before, and I will tell you that every time an offensive lineman hits a defensive lineman at the line of scrimmage, it produces a low-level subconcussive event, some little margin of brain change. So if you had an offensive lineman who played high school, collegiate, and professional football, he could walk out of the game with 10,000 subconcussive events, none of which have been diagnosed, none of which he's aware of, but the aggregate almost certainly will do the same brain damage and CTE that getting knocked out 5 or 6 times will do.
Jeez Louise.
So we need to be moving dramatically on the, first of all, protection, so that most helmets don't do that much other than prevent skull fracture. But the good news is there's a profit motive in it. And so you've got people competing to try to figure it out. Look, what you need is coil and compression that that attenuates or dissipates the energy field. So it comes to hit the head, and half of it gets displaced to go somewhere else. We're starting to see more pushes for younger kids not playing tackle football. We're starting to see a league like the Ivy League, which is not allowing hitting except in games. So in training camp, you sort of model the plays, but you're not actually smacking each other. In practice, you model the plays, but you don't actually hit. And they found it drops the rate of concussions 50% because so many of them are occurring in training camp or during practice. So that's another thing. Ultimately, we're going to have to find a way to heal the brain. And that will be some pharmaceutical or stem cell or something. But I love football. I think it teaches great values, but I had a crisis of conscience, as you know, back in the 90s, and I've now held like 14 concussion conferences with leading neurologists, helmet manufacturers, turf manufacturers, creators of nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals that can either prophylactically protect the brain or it can help it when the concussions occurred. Because I love the sport, I think it teaches teamwork, self-discipline, courage under pressure, all the skills needed to be applicable in second career. But I can't say that I'm doing my fiduciary responsibility to a player by just stacking dollars in his bank book where he might go on to dementia.
I'm gonna take you back to 2009 before as we wind down. And I talked to you, I believe it was the Friday after this Thursday night event where one Tiger Woods crashed his tree. And you said, among other things, that he would come back and that his comeback would be, and everyone loves a great American comeback story. So I'd love your thoughts on the great American comeback story that unfolded a week ago Sunday.
So the American public loves the fall of the high and mighty. So when he was struggling with women and substances and all that, there were people that weren't very happy in their own lives, and so they got off by
well said
trading in his misery.
Yep.
But we also love a great.
Excuse me, I got a fist pump on that one.
We also love a great comeback story. And the truth is that, I mean, you saw it with Kobe Bryant, you saw it with Ray Lewis, you saw it with people that were in awful trouble. But when they're in trouble, they're honest and open and transparent. Apologize, understand that they've let people down as well as themselves. Then, as long as there's no repetition of the behavior, as long as there's not a recurrence, and they can still compete in their craft, they can come back and be very successful figures. To some people, Tiger Woods was a more sympathetic character trying to do the comeback than he was when he was absolutely dominant and looked like he was on a different level. But he became more relatable when he struggled. And all of us go through reverses in our life. I certainly have. But the question is, can you be resilient? Can you come back? And there's a great inspirational lesson in that, because if you take Tiger Woods at the point where his marriage is breaking up and everything is happening, and he's got substance problems, he's got female problems, he didn't give up.
Sure did.
And he struggled in some years where it had to be humiliating to him, having been the best golfer possibly in history. And he was, far back in the field. So for all of us who have reverses in life, and I struggled with alcohol, the fact that you don't give up, that you keep trying, even when it looks hopeless, is inspiration.
Um, what are your thoughts on his ability to catch Jack Nicklaus? You think he'll do it?
He's pretty young, really. I mean, golf is a sport that you can play forever and ever and ever. And if I watched the Masters, and what you saw was, he was tied with a group of three other people. He was tied, and then he kicked it into overdrive.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Tiger Woods we're seeing. It was the same Tiger Woods with a killer instinct. The key in sports is, what do you do in adversity? Can you compartmentalize, adopt a quiet mind, and elevate your level of play in critical situations so that you triumph? And oh my goodness, did he do that? I mean, he was on fire at the end of his round.
Yeah, the Masters, where he came back a week ago Sunday, I believe it was one of the highest rated golf or sports telecasts in 34 years, the highest rated Masters in 34 years, something like that. It was an ungodly high number.
There's no figure in any sport, although hopefully Patrick Mahomes will be there.
Yeah.
But there's no figure in any sport as dominant and as popular and as much a draw as he is in golf. It's the difference in golf ratings when he's playing well and not is like double.
Yeah.
People interested because we followed Tiger growing up. He's like an American legend.
So in closing, you have these great seminars that you're holding, and my friend, sports agent Eric Metz, wants you to have him on it, including me. But how are they going? I know they're going really well. But tell my viewers about them.
So the goal is to mentor and train a new generation of sports professionals with ethics, with values, who understand the power of sports with role modeling, how you can target bullying, domestic violence, any issue using the profile of athletes. So we looked at the field, and people go to law school, they go to business school, they take sports marketing, and they teach you the principles of each of those fields. But no more would be able to come out of law school and really understand how to start your own practice or go to court. You have to relearn all of that. And so the first part of it is the Agent Academy, and that teaches specific skills. So we teach people how to listen, and that listening is really the most important quality. It's being able to draw out another human being and to understand their deepest anxieties and fears and their greatest hopes and dreams. And if you can think the way someone else thinks in life, if you can put yourself in their heart and mind, then you can navigate your way gracefully. So we do a negotiation situation where half of them play GMs, half of them play owners, and they have to negotiate. We make them recruit a player and his family. We've done Patrick Mahomes, Ronald Jones, Jaylen Brown, a whole series of players. They have to do a marketing project where they figure out how to brand and market. They have to create a new app. So we're teaching them all these skills. So that's number one. And we try to keep that to about 30. We're doing the next one in Washington, D.C. The second part of it is an online course that has like 85 modules where you'll listen to Jacob Ullman, the VP at Fox Sports, who hires the talent, talk about how to get a job. You'll listen to people talk about what they do. And that's online at steinbergsports.com. The next part of it is the sports career conference. And so in that one, we have experts in each field. So we'll have a media panel where we'll have a television anchor, a a sports writer, a producer, different aspects of it, and they'll explain how they got started, what you realistically have to do to break in the profession, how you have to distinguish yourself from other people by branding yourself. And then another one on marketing, and then another one on new entrepreneurship. So it's, can you create this app? Can you create something new? We do one on philanthropy, and we do one where if you want to work for a team, a league, a conference, an athletic department, a players association, we have people from those different fields. And in that, we have a mentoring hour where those experts sit and talk with the young people. So it's all about networking. And I'm determined that we can create a better trained, more ethical, more principled group to take over the field, because I'd like to leave it better than I found it.
And actually, you've done that, and I think that's a good place to close off here. Hey, by the way, tell people how they can find out more about the Academy.
So if you go to steinbergsports.com and then /career conference /agent academy / something or other course, you can find it all. I tweet at Leigh Steinberg. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and all your wonderful Instagram message platforms.
Pinterest. Get on Pinterest too. And Reddit. Hey, Leigh, thanks a lot. Don't go anywhere. But folks, this has been another in, I believe, a series of. Do you realize you have 62 videos? And this is the 63rd on Zennie.
With you?
Yeah, Zennie62 on YouTube. Yeah.
Well, why don't we package it as a sleep provider for people that are having problems with insomnia?
Well, actually, you know what? Yeah, but those talks with Paxton Lynch might wake them up in their Super Bowl parties too. So we might keep them awake and excite them. I don't know.